So this video is about replacing or fixing the thermostatic cartridge in my shower. There's been a leak coming from somewhere. It's taken me a while to work out where it's coming from, but the shower pump's been kicking in on and off constantly, and eventually I worked out actually it's coming from the mixer here. So I've already started to take this apart to try and work out what's wrong with it or how I might be able to fix it. I've already taken the top lever off here. I've started to disassemble this one. So I think this was originally from soak.com, which doesn't exist anymore, but it's a fairly generic unit, I think, under different names from all the other big online brands. So I've already been into it, but I thought I'd put it back together just to show how it comes apart, because others will be similar. So these handles actually come off just by hand, so these, or levers I should say. Then underneath those there's an Allen key which holds this onto the spindle behind it, so you just undo that, and that with a point grips onto that. So it's then just a case of unscrewing this. That comes off like that. There's a washer in there for that to one side, and for the most part it pulls apart. So this plate comes off. Probably should have taken it off. Well, actually no, you have to take the handle off first. So that comes off. Don't look at the mess. Looks disgusting behind here, but it was clean on the face of it, I promise. So this bit pulls out. That's the part that prevents the handle going too far one way or stopping it from the far end of hot to cold. So that just pulls out. It's locked in on some on a splined piece in there, and that just goes to one side. I think these pieces stop the water from kind of running back into the wall void behind it, so it's all sealed quite tightly. There's O-rings on pretty much everything. Then this bit here just unscrews right from the back. Oh, plastic washer that goes in there. So this part basically holds in, apart from I suppose looking pretty or whatever, holds in the cartridge itself. It took me a while to work out how to actually get this out, because a lot of these have a grub screw in the thread here. This one doesn't, so I couldn't find anything online about this particular one. It just seems to come up on Google as a long splined or long spindled cartridge, and in the end the only way I could find it was by kind of sight, really, by images. So it literally just pulls out. In fact, having said that, it was easier to screw the handle back on once the faceplate's off and pull it out, but it is coming. So there it is. The part I forgot to mention actually before I go any further with this is to isolate the water. You've got the hot and cold here and there, so they're screwed right in to prevent obviously any water spraying out as you do this. So here is the cartridge itself. Actually, the other thing where I kind of shoved this all back in quickly, there's a circlet that goes around there, which I'd already taken off, so that there goes onto that, and that keeps this in the cartridge assembly. So I've already removed that. If I then, next step was to work out how to get into this, and I suppose I should add at this point, obviously I did look at replacing these, so my intention was expecting, I suppose, to pay £20 or £30 for one of these. Having looked online, they don't seem to start for anything less than about 80, and I have no idea if that is any good or not, whether it's a decent brand. So I suppose, being me, I decided to try and get into the thing and see if there was any way of repairing it. So after a bit of messing around, I realised if you hold this and turn the end of it, it does actually come apart. So they go inside, spring there. I'm assuming that's the thermostatic part. Probably reacts to the temperature of the water, I'm guessing, not an expert. then in here it's basically a piece of solid brass, and it's the movement of this that pushes this part up and down within it. Obviously the circlip there holds excuse me, holds that in place and pushes that up and down, which allows for either the hot or cold to enter. At least that's my understanding of it. But where it was leaking from was from this part here, so out where the spindle sticks out from the body. So my assumption here is that it's these two O-rings, or one of them, that needs replacing. So I've gone onto Amazon, I've ordered a generic kit of I think 400 various O-rings, and when that arrives, and also some silicone grease. So there's a particular silicone grease that's used for this application. Everything feels kind of nasty in your hand. It's all yeah, like greasy feeling. So that would be the silicone grease. So once the new O-rings arrive, I'll swap these over and reassemble it. So that will be next. Right, so I've now got the cartridge from the shower on the bench. I've taken it apart and kind of had a look through it to see what I think I might need. As I mentioned before, I've ordered a generic set of O-rings, just a set off Amazon. There seems to be a load of different rebranded versions of this set. I think it's called Tool Zone, this one. It just contains a load of different O-rings, because I couldn't work out, I don't have a micrometer or however you'd measure an O-ring. So my approach here is just to buy an assortment and go with the ones that appear to fit. So I have already replaced the ones on the outside here. So there is, hold it still, there is one there, another one there, and one there. So I've already replaced those ones. But I'll show the opening of this unit again. So I think, as I mentioned previously, there's a circlip here that needs to be taken off. So that just comes off there. The bottom just unscrews. Should just push out. And then in here is another two O-rings, a larger one and a thinner one, or thicker and a thinner, I should say. The whole thing is covered in a silicone grease. So the other thing I bought is this, which you'll need. It's a lubricant that is waterproof and sticks to the metal and the plastic and keeps the whole thing moving smoothly. It's something I've noticed over time, is that the whole mechanism has become harder to use. So I assume that the grease has got away, leaked out over time. So I think it's wise to kind of cover everything in that as part of the reassembly. So I'm just going to prise these two off. There are proper tools for doing this. I don't have them, so it's a jewellery screwdriver. Focusing issues here, but just that one off as well. Again, I think, like I said in a previous video, I'm not an expert here. This is DIY, working it out as you go. So I've got a couple of O-rings here that they're smaller in diameter, but I think that's probably what's required to give a decent fit here, because the ones that look the same size in the box aren't as tight once you put them on. So I'm going with these two here, which I've already sort of sized up, and I think they're the best fit for these two. Time will tell here, once this obviously all goes back together, whether I've got the right sizes or not. So I won't be binning anything until it's all back together and in the shower. And I've already damaged one of these by jabbing the screwdriver into it, so it's probably why proper tools do exist for this job. But that's those two on there now. So it's smaller in diameter than the one I took off, so it definitely feels like a more snug fit. It's just whether I've picked the size that's slightly, well, off at all, and then it doesn't go back together, but that remains to be seen. Yeah, it's pretty thick stuff. It's probably a good idea to wear latex gloves to do this, which I also don't have any of, so I'm just going to give this a wipe down. I've seen all sorts of talk about dissolve or sitting these in vinegar or something that's going to dissolve lime scale or whatever nastiness might be inside the cartridge. It's not too bad inside here, from what I can tell. No major sort of signs of corrosion or anything, so I'm just going to give it a wipe down and put it back together. Just stick some of this grease on. It is really sticky stuff. Which I guess is good, so it doesn't come off once it's in use. It's probably also a good idea to do this on a clean bench, which this isn't completely clean, so I might just give that another wipe now. Put that down. Some on there. Yeah, that's a lot smoother than it was now, so just making sure everything has got a good covering of the grease. And then that bit goes back in there. Hopefully that O-ring isn't too big, and it does actually pull through. Have I done that right? Stick some more grease inside this bit. Right, that doesn't appear to be going in too easily, so I have perhaps put the wrong size O-ring on. Or am I missing something else here? So there are some indents within there that the hexagonal piece needs to slide into, otherwise it will get stuck at the top. So hopefully it's just that. I think I've got it lined up. There we go, that feels better. Some more grease on this part, another O-ring here, which I can't remember if I mentioned before, I've also replaced as well. So the whole thing does feel a lot tighter. Whether that is a good thing or not, I don't know at this stage. I still need to this shaft needs to come out further. Just press down on that. So that isn't turning, so I think I might have the wrong sized O-ring in there. It's also not popping up, so I'm not getting the line where the circuit would go, and I don't want to push it too hard, so I think I'm going to have to pull this apart, try a different O-ring and resume. Right, so after some further persuasion and probably 2 more broken O-rings, I have now got it back so that it's revealed the indentation around the shaft there to get the circlip back on. Whether I have put the wrong size circlip on and whether this risks damage over time, I guess I will find out. But once I got it back together, I did take it apart again, check the O-ring. It's much tighter than it was before. I've got plenty of grease on there, but hopefully that will give the watertight seal that I need to stop the leak from here where it was coming from before. As I say, time will tell on that. So I'm just going to put it back together now. As I say, all the other O-rings on the outside of the cartridge have been replaced as well. Just stick a bit more grease on this. Oh, wrong way. So that goes in there. Spring. And everything should just screw back together. So there it is. Make sure it does still move. Right, I'm going to go and reinstall this if it fits. I mean, from the lessons I've just learned on the inside of it with the O-rings, I'm a bit concerned I might have put some incorrectly sized ones on the outside, but I will take this tray of 400 O-rings with me, 490 odd now probably, and hopefully make this thing fit and give it a test. So with the cartridge replaced, there seems now to be no more dripping coming from here where it was before, and the shower is operating as it's supposed to, so that's a good sign. I think I'm gonna count this as a success for now. Again, one of those where time will tell. Excuse all this black mold as well. That is the silicone that holds the faceplate on, where the water's got to it and it's gone a bit mouldy. So that would just need scraping off and reapplying when the faceplate goes back on, and it's just fitting in reverse order of how it came apart. And that, I believe, is the job done.